we need to finish talking about costume paperwork. So we're going to do the second half of the list: the fitting sheet, pull rent buy, summaries, changing lists, dressing cards, dresser cards, and costume tracking. All those things we do to organize the work. Let's start with a fitting sheet. When we bring an actor in for a fitting, we need to write down the notes. What do we need to do? And the notes are different depending on the style of costume, depending on the shape of the costume. Are we building it from scratch? Is it something we bought at JCPenney? A lot of places will take their notes on manila cards that are then safety pinned to the costume or tied onto the hanger that the costume goes on. At SFA, the way that we do it is we keep the notes in a book. So we have a book of fitting notes, so we know what's happening on the show. So the first thing we need to do is we list the garment. So maybe the garment is blue trousers. So we don't just want to say trousers, because they might have a pair of blue trousers and a pair of brown trousers. We don't want to say doublet. We want to say gold doublet or doublet mock-up. You need to describe it so that people go to the correct garment. So in the book, it'll say what the garment is: blue trousers. And then it'll have the notes. There'll always be a note to put a name tag in. There might be a note to hem, and then a capital A and a capital P. AP means as pinned. You'll find that in every costume shop. There might be take in center back, AP, and center back will be abbreviated CB. CF, center front, CB, center back. There are shortcuts that are pretty universal in all costume shops, and those are some of them. Now at SFA, we often have students who are working in the laboratory, production laboratory, doing the notes. And so we ask that they initial that they did that note. And then we have an approval column so that the costume supervisor can look at that note and say, yes, you did it right, or say, no, we need to go back and fix something, or it wasn't complete. You need to finish this step before it's complete. So while we have a line, sometimes we'll do these in blocks so you can put several notes, but usually we'll just put the garment and then we'll put several notes and then skip a line, put a garment, several notes. And that is how we do our fitting sheets. Next, we have pull, rent, buy. This is an easy way to go into stock. So you can look at the detail lists of the costumes, and then you can make just everything we need to pull from stock. For the character of Hamlet, we need to pull the blue trousers and what size. And we also need to pull gray boots and what size. And then for this character, we need to pull X and what size it should be. We can also divide it up and say for these 5 characters, we need to pull socks, and they need to be black or brown or blue or white or baseball or thigh high and what size. Because now, while you don't think of socks as having a size, socks actually do have sizes. And that's why sometimes your socks are like, oh, they're too tight or they're loose and they cause blisters. It's because you're wearing the wrong size of sock. Also, if I need to contact a rental company, I can go through and just I don't have to flip pages. I have all the information in one place. This is also really handy after doing fittings where we find out we don't have any shoes that fit that actor. And so you can make, as fittings go on through the day, we'll go through the notes and we'll go, oh, we need to buy this, we need to buy that, put the size on it. Now the person shopping for the show. In a professional theater, you might have a shopper and not the costume designer going shopping. And then sometimes the costume designer needs to go shopping. So here the shopper knows that they need to purchase black knee-high boots in a size 10, men's 10, women's 10. They need to purchase white t-shirts, package of 6 large. So those are kinds of things. So you know, okay, I can do all of this at Walmart. I can do all of this at Goodwill. I need to do some of this online. Again, you've got all the information that you need in one place. But rather than making a piece of paper that we had to print out for pulling or renting or buying, we just check mark which one it is. And so we can print out 5 or 6 of these and then use them as we need to. A summary, right? A measurement summary helps us when we're shopping. You know, on our fitting sheets, we have a section where we ask you to tell us things that you know. Height, weight, and what size clothing that you purchase. Now, some people don't know how tall they are or how much they weigh, but when I am out shopping, I don't have you with me. I don't have the actor with me. So by knowing the height and the weight, I have an idea in my head of that actor's shape. So that's why we ask for that. So if you weigh 188.6 pounds, I don't need to know that. But if you say 180, then I know, okay, I've got a general shape of your body. So I'm not asking for something extremely specific, but don't write 150 if you're 180, because that's a different body. And I need to know what body I'm buying clothing for. If you buy jeans a size 32, 32, tell me that, because if I have to buy jeans for the show, I want to buy the size that's comfortable for you to wear. So that's why we ask that. A lot of times people don't know what size tights they wear or hose stockings type thing. For booty candy, we had to buy hose for a male actor who did not know because he doesn't buy those to wear. So we had to find that. Some people know. Dancers tend to know what size tights they wear. People who don't take ballet class tend to not know what size tights they wear. But I can look at a chart and by height and weight, I can tell what size tights to purchase. Okay, so these are all things. The cross shoulders back helps me to buy jackets. So if I need to buy a suit coat or a blazer or a winter coat, if I can have that across shoulder back measurement. Shoes are different. So there may be times when you say, well, I wear a 7.5, 8. It depends on the shoe. That's fine. You can put 7.5, 8. But it might be good if you said 7.5 in a sports shoe, 8 in a high heel, so that I don't buy you a 7.5 high heel, which is then going to have to be returned and brought back. But that's sort of how we divide that up. Now, why male, female? Throughout history, there is clothing that is described as being worn by men and clothing that is described as being worn by women. Okay. Now, yes, sometimes throughout history, women have dressed as men and men have dressed as women. So the reason for that is so that I know if I'm shopping for men's 1970s suits, I have everybody that wears that on one page. And I don't have it separated out. So I have to go hunting for who do I need to purchase a men's 1970s suit for. Or on the flip side, I have to buy dresses for the 1980s. Who wears that female look of the 1980s? And then I can go shopping for that. So that's why we have that separated out. Who's wearing clothes that are designated as men's clothing and who's wearing clothing that's designated as women's clothing. And yes, since the 1990s, we have a lot of what is referred to as unisex clothing. It's not necessarily male or female. It's just clothes that people wear. So there has been a sea change in clothing, but for the first, say, 1800 years, it was divided by gender. And so as a costume designer, I need to know which gender that character is being dressed as. So that's why we have that male, female there. All right, dressing cards. So a dressing card is a list that tells the actor what do they wear. So this is from a production of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And there were a lot of costume changes in this show. So I had to tell the actors what costume they wear when. So I have 5 costumes. I could put them on in the wrong order. So we put these in the dressing room so the actor could look at them before the show, before dress rehearsal, and say, okay, I need to put on my leotard, my tights, and my tan shoes. And then the very first thing I put on is my blue and cream Art Deco dress, and I wear the blue bracelets with it. Now they know that the next time they go on stage, they're the scrub woman, but what do they wear as the scrub woman, right? So they know what order they act it in, but they don't always know what costume they wear in what order. Now, of course, the Paris original dresses, there's a whole song in the scene about that. So hopefully they know. But you'll notice on Shelby's, I marked that she changes stage left. There's not time to go back to the dressing room. And you'll notice in Act 1, Scene 6, 7, and 11, there is one specific dress, but in Act 1, Scene 7, we add a jacket and a purse to that moment. So the actor can start to synthesize that. Professional actors will take notes at their fitting. They will bring their script and they will take notes at their fitting. Oh, in this scene, I'm wearing the blue suit. And in this scene, I wear jeans and a t-shirt. And in this scene, because that helps them to understand the zeitgeist of that scene. In this scene, I'm more formal. In this scene, I'm more relaxed. And so that is what we do there. Now, how do we figure all this out? This I can figure out by the design. I can look at the design. I can look at the detail sheets. We've done the fittings, so I know it's the green dress and not the purple dress. I can figure this out, but there's more I need to figure out. Costume tracking. This is an example of costume tracking from a production of Hamlet. And we had a lot of armor, and it wasn't that they were playing multiple characters, it's that their characters were changed. Sometimes they were prepared for battle, sometimes they were more relaxed and just in the castle. And so we had to track where did they take their armor off and where did they put it back on. So if they took it off stage left, but they put it back on stage right, somebody has to take it from stage left during the next 2 scenes to stage right so that the actor can put it back on. So you can see there's all this tracking and who's going to carry that across the stage, who's going to help them take this off and who's going to help them put on. We recently had that experience with production of Booty Candy. So here's an example of what we took to watch rehearsal. So we know in the script on page 12, exiting at the end of scene 1, we had Kaya as the young mom and DJ as an 8-year-old were exiting the stage. But we hadn't seen rehearsal yet, so we didn't know which side of the stage. So that third column, we would write in what side of the stage they were exiting. They were exiting stage right. We knew that they re-entered Kaya in scene 3, DJ in scene 4, and we knew what page number that happened in, and we knew what character they were going to be, but we didn't know where they entered the stage. So we went to rehearsal to see, now where do they re-enter the stage? Because when you're planning a costume change, you don't want, if you exit stage right and you re-enter stage left, you don't want to do the costume change stage right, because then once the actor's changed, if they're running late, they have to still run all the way around the stage and then enter. So what you want the actor to do is exit stage right, move over to stage left, change their clothes, and then they are at their entrance. So if something, they have to leave off their vest because their change is running long, they're entering the stage on time. It's more important that the actor enter the stage on time than they have on, say, their jewelry. So we have to plan that, and then we have to assign a dresser. So who is going to meet that actor and help them change their clothes so they can get back on stage on time. And sometimes you will assign a dresser to a specific actor. And it doesn't matter if they change stage right, stage left, or in the dressing room, you help that actor. And there are times when you are assigned to stage left, and it doesn't matter which actor is coming off stage, you help that specific actor. So it depends on the show. It depends on the needs of the show, how you assign dressers. But you'll notice we have times. We had a lot of time for most of the changes. We didn't have very many extremely quick changes. The issue was we were performing in Kennedy Auditorium, and there is no dressing room, and there's not enough time for the actors to leave the building, go to a dressing room, and come back to the building. So we had to do every costume change as if it was a fast change. It had to happen in the backstage area. But after we do this, we can start to organize. So here are some ideas of some notes. So based on the design of the show, on the left, in Act 1, Scene 1 of Stage Door, stage left, I knew that all these people, Andy, Anna Drake, Sloan, Carly, Courtney, and Vanessa, Sloan, Drake, Andy, Katie, Carly, and Vanessa, all had to change their clothes within that scene on stage left. And this is the order that they were changing their clothes in. So you'll notice some of those names are twice. So let's look at that. Second one down is Anna Drake. She came on stage. She was coming home from work, the character. So she came on stage in her coat and dress. She took her coat off. She hung it up on the coat tree. She left the scene, got out of her work clothes and into her bathrobe, okay, and came back on stage. Had a moment in the scene. Oh, I have to get ready for my date. You go down 3/4 of that list. She had to leave stage again, take off her bathrobe and put on her gown, and then came back on stage, took her coat off the coat tree and left for her date. So she changed her clothes multiple times in one scene. And you'll notice multiple people changed their clothes multiple times in that. And so when we went to rehearsal with our tracking sheets, I had one person tracking different things, and I had another person tracking some things, and we had, because there were 20 some odd women in the show and they all had 6 or 7 costumes. You're tracking this group of actors, you're tracking that group of actors. So we knew it had to happen stage left, but how much time does it take? And then who are we going to assign to that change? So you'll notice there's timing in different writing, and then the name of the dresser is out on the far left in a different color of ink so that we knew who was. So a 5-minute change isn't bad. A 3-minute change isn't bad. An 8-minute change. Carly had 1 minute to get out of their pajamas and into a robe. So that one got a little tight. Talia, who was helping Carly on that, was actually an actor in the show. We had so many things happening at that point in time that we had to assign actors to help other actors change their clothes because the dressers were all busy with other things. You'll notice in the card on the right, that is from a production of Three Sisters. So this is what needs to happen between the end of Act 3 and the beginning of Act 4. So Katie had to change her clothes stage right. So you can see that right and left was my watching rehearsal and figuring that out. If you look down, Alan Teetle, there in the parentheses, the 5 minutes is in a different color of ink. That's because I had a good idea Katie's change was 60 seconds, but I wasn't really sure. So I had to go to rehearsal to find out how long Alan had to change his clothes. You'll notice that one for the soldiers back into uniforms is blank. I never really put that in. It turns out they had plenty of time to change their clothes, and I didn't need to really worry about that. So the one on the left, all of that first list is during Act 1, Scene 1. But the next part down is between Scene 2 and Scene 3, and then what happens during Scene 3. So as you can imagine, there were a lot of cards that went through. But this is just part of figuring out. You have to understand in your head what is going on during the show. Dresser cards. Okay, so now I can tell each dresser what is it that you actually do. So this is a breakdown of that production of Stage Door, two of the dressers, Nicole and Megan. When I have worked a major road show that comes into town, I was a union dresser and the King and I came into town. I'd never worked with that actor before. I'd never worked with that wardrobe supervisor before. I had never been backstage on this production of this show before. When I showed up at work that morning, they handed me essentially dresser card. Now it was spiral bound. It was those little index cards that you can purchase spiral bound. And it was on a long shoestring, so you could wear it around your neck like a necklace. And it had this information on it. It told me in Act 1, Scene 1, you need to be stage left and you need to help Vanessa get out of a dress and into her gown. And then you need to help Vanessa get out of her gown and back into a dress. Then you're going to go stage right, and between Act 1, Scene 1 and Act 1, Scene 2, you're going to help Amelia get out of her blue suit and into her pink dress. And then you're going to go stage left. So between the next, so this just tells me as a technician, I don't have to look at a run sheet and find my name. It's been broken down for me. And the important thing is that it's broken down in a way that you can post it on a wall, you can stick it in the back pocket of your jeans, or you can wear it around your neck, because they have to be able to write notes on it. If I am going to stand in one place, I can post it on the wall and I can just look up at the wall, but it needs to be printed large enough that I can read it without having to walk over to it. If it's in my back pocket, it has to be small enough that I don't have to unfold it to read it. If it's around my neck, I need to be able to flip pages. But that is a way, when you don't have a stage manager saying go, you know, okay, I did this job. Now I have to go do my next job. What is my next job? And you don't have to have it necessarily memorized. Of course, after about the second rehearsal of doing it, you have it pretty well memorized, but just to be sure, you should look at that dressing card so that you know, oh, that's right, I need to do this, because you might not remember exactly everything. And it's really important for the show that you remember exactly everything you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so overall, we have gone over all of these different kinds of paperwork that costume designers and costume managers do. For the class that you have a project due, the parts of the paperwork that you have to turn in, besides your analyses, are your notes, your plots, and your detail lists. You don't have to worry about the rest of this because we're not really doing the show. This is just a project, an early beginning project for you to do. But now you know all of the paperwork, or most of the paperwork, that is necessary in order to get a show up and running.